Hi, everybody. Today's Facts in 5 video is updates on Medicaid eligibility and kind of all the eligibility requirements and the different thresholds in terms of amounts of assets that let you keep and such. Because I had posted a video on our YouTube channel about 2 years ago now, but periodically those figures for Medicaid eligibility are updated. So I just wanted to provide the most up-to-date information for you all. So let's get started. The basic eligibility requirements for Medicaid, if you're full-time in a nursing home or looking for 24/7 kind of round-the-clock at-home care, the asset test is still the same. They say you can only keep $1,600. So that figure has not changed, unfortunately. There's also non-countable assets, and a lot of the terms I'm using now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on those, but if you're looking for more an in-depth explanation of what the terms are, how they apply to them in context of Medicaid eligibility, please feel free to go back and visit my original Medicaid eligibility video because I go into a lot more detail on those terms. But non-countable assets, so assets that simply put are not going to count towards that $1,600 number. One of them is your house, so long as you are living in your house or your spouse is living in your house or a minor disabled child of yours is living in the house is a non-countable asset up to a certain amount. So they say you can have equity up to $1.033 million of equity in the house. So basically you can have $1 million house and have it still be exempt, but if it's over that, it may run into an issue for Medicaid eligibility purposes. You can also have, and these next couple figures haven't really changed, but just as a quick review, there's some other important non-countable assets that the state lets you keep and doesn't force you to sell to get down below that $1,600 number. And the first is a prepaid irrevocable funeral contract up to $10,000. The spouse of the applicant can keep a car up to any value, and whole life insurance policies that have a face value of $1,500 or less are also going to be exempt. And also, since we're talking about life insurance, term life insurance policies are non-countable as well, just because they have no inherent cash surrender value. Also, there's the asset test, which is that $1,600 number that we look at for Medicaid eligibility. There's also an income test, where simply how it works is the state says anything above you get to keep $75 a month of all of your income. So pensions, Social Security, anything like that. And then anything above and beyond that $75 is going to get diverted to the nursing home or to the caregiver, in-home caregivers, whoever's providing that care. So, or if you're a wartime veteran, that monthly allowance that they let you keep is going to be $165 a month. Also, too, if you are applying for Medicaid, but your spouse is not, your spouse gets to keep a certain amount of assets. It's known as the Community Spouse Resource Allowance. So that's the full amount of the marital assets that the spouse is allowed to keep, because remember, married couples, they look at a married couple as a joint financial unit. So anything that's owned by you or owned by your spouse, they kind of pool it all together for Medicaid eligibility purposes. So generally speaking, the community spouse, so the spouse that's not applying for Medicaid, gets to keep up to half of the marital assets. Up to $148,620 is the maximum. So if the total amount of marital assets is $500,000, the spouse doesn't get to keep $250,000, which is the half rule. It's still up to a maximum of $148,000 or $148,620. That's the maximum that the community spouse is going to be able to keep. But there's also a floor. So the minimum is $50,000. The spouse may also be able to keep some of the applicant's income. So if your spouse is staying at home but you're really the primary breadwinner, so to speak, where most of the income to pay all the monthly bills is coming from you, then some of that income can be diverted potentially to the community spouse, up to a maximum of $3,715.50, with also potential additional allowances for things that they call the shelter allowance, utility allowance. So there is the potential to divert some income of yours to your spouse and not have it all passed directly to the nursing home. Last but not least, what is the average cost and the length of stay in a skilled nursing facility? So I use that SNF there as just shorthand for skilled nursing facility. The average monthly cost for nursing home care in Connecticut is $14,060. And the average stay, and the numbers are kind of all over the place depending on which resource you're looking at, but typically you're seeing a stay within 2 or 3 years is fairly average. So what do those actual numbers come out to? So 1 year in the nursing home is $168,720. 2 years, you're looking at almost $340,000. All the way up to 5 years, which is now you're just shy of $850,000 for full-time care, either at home or in a skilled nursing facility. And the reason why I go up to 5 years there, as we all know, when we're talking about Medicaid eligibility, we're always worried about the 5-year look back. So if you're making gifts, when you say, but I'm going to hold on to enough money to pay all of my costs for 5 years so I can still get outside that 5-year look back window and still make those gifts now, you would need to have almost $850,000 stashed away to still be able to make those gifts and then pay for your care out of pocket. So that's the quick 5-minute update of the for 2023 of Medicaid eligibility figures there. If you have any additional questions, again, I get into much more detail about the specific requirements for Medicaid eligibility in my prior video, so please check that out. And also you can always contact us, visit our website, www.kkc-law.com, to contact us for more information.